sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, possibly welcome back to My Sister's a Therapist. If this is your first time, just welcome the regular way.
You are so very welcome to be in our engagement.
My name is Virginia Jones. This podcast is one that I do with my sister, Laura Ryan, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist. And this is her.
Hi, I'm Laura Ryan, licensed marriage and family therapist, but my most important credit is sister to Master of Mirth, Virginia Jones.
And our second most important credit is sisters to Robbie Wabi Sabi.
And our third most important credit is sister to Roaming Gnome. Emily Ryan, actually followed by, but not, this isn't in no particular order, followed by Jonas Polsky.
Yeah, we have a lot of celebrity in our family. We've got the spark. We've got the fire. Laura, this week I'd like to talk about bad boundaries.
Excellent. Virginia, the boundary that I feel that I need to set with you this AM or PM, depending on where you're listening, is when I'm singing, don't join in.
Oh, wow.
I'm a great singer on my own, okay? And I don't need any help.
You don't need no stinking help. You know what, Laura? Thank you for communicating to me your boundary.
I hope you're able to honor my boundary.
So I want to talk about bad boundaries or messy boundaries. And
we could say weak boundaries.
Weak boundaries. I'm going to call it bad boundaries because that has the same letter in the beginning. It has consonants, and I like that. We usually like to start these shows with a definition. It's a psychological demarcation that protects the integrity of an individual or group and that helps the person or group set realistic limits on participation in a relationship or activity. You can think of it as a guideline of how you want to be treated and how you treat others. For those of us who grew up Christian, you can think of boundaries as the golden rule. They're going to treat other people how you want to be treated. And that feels very simple. Bad boundaries are signs that you are either a toxic personality, you have a personality disorder, or you're in a toxic relationship. There's only one kind of good boundary, which is a boundary that makes the setter feel safe and respected. But there's a million kind of bad boundaries. As Chekhov said, all happy families are alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own unique way. It's not a punishment for anyone. It's a way to communicate clearly your needs and what you will not tolerate.
It's letting people know what my expectations of them and myself are. I remember I was dating a white man at one point, and he kept using the word ghetto to describe poor areas or places that were not gentrified, places that were lower brow, run down maybe. And I said to him, hey, that's a very loaded word. It's based in racism and I don't like it. And he tried to tell me that that wasn't true. And my boundary was, if you want to say that, I guess it's up to you, but please don't say that around me. Right. And then he said it around me again. So I played him a TikTok where a Black woman was describing how offensive it is to her to hear white people use that term. And he was very upset and hurt. But you know what? I'm not going to sit around and be offended by my partner. It makes me cringe inside. I don't want to be around somebody saying stuff that makes me cringe. And he obviously doesn't agree with me because I think that's part of it. You've got your play area. I have my play area. These are the rules for my play area. And those are the rules for your play area. And you don't have to understand why I'm setting the boundary. It doesn't have to make sense to you, but you just need to honor it because you want to have a relationship with me.
There was a moment in the early 2000s when I worked at Nike, and the well-to-do white women at Nike kept saying bling and ghetto fabulous. And I just kept asking them not to do it. Bling, okay, fine, but not the other thing. And it was just an uphill battle because they'd seen it on television and they'd seen it on Pimp My Ride. Pimp is also offensive. And they're like, no, this is normal. This is a normal thing.
Well, they had heard other whites say it, so it's okay. But even if you think the boundary is weird or too much or doesn't make sense, it's mine. I'm being honest with you about it. And so to me, it's more about having respect for the other person's needs.
And the thing that you experienced is that white men do not like being corrected.
No, and they certainly don't like it when you set boundaries with them.
But a boundary keeps the relationship safe because it sets limits and it communicates expectations. And it's sometimes hard to stand up for yourself and say, hey, really don't love it when you joke about having sex with my sister.
I always have to set the boundary.
Start on day one and say, don't joke about that.
Hey,
that's gross.
I know you've never met my sister. It's fine.
But hey, having the fortitude to say, this is what I will tolerate, this is what I cannot tolerate. It's a great way to build a good relationship because the person understands what your expectations are. What's not good is not setting a boundary, but then getting upset about something. And this person
With
for
the
whatever
expectation
reason,
that that person would already know or
would already know or would assume, and then you're just mad at them and they don't know why.
Because the first time that guy said ghetto,
Right. You went,
but he didn't know that it was a problem for me. And so I waited a minute and I said, hey, I know that you think that's funny. And to me, it's like a lot of words that I used to say that were super offensive when I was younger. We used to refer to people as gay and that was an insult. But I didn't know any better. And I wish that someone had taken me aside and said, hey, that's really offensive to the LGBTQ plus community.
if you're with someone who doesn't respect you, doesn't respect your boundaries, they can give you pushback like, oh, this is mean, this is abusive, and I'm rolling my eyes here. This is impossible.
Also, if you're raised in a family where boundaries are discouraged, it's really hard to feel comfortable with that.
When I first started hearing about boundaries and someone would say, oh, I have no boundaries, I would think, oh, this is exciting. I'm going to get good dirt, or this person is going to be very honest with me, or is being transparent with me.
Well, people love to say stuff like that in a really cutesy way, which somehow excuses them from really inappropriate behavior.
But they're not being transparent. They're being positively translucent. They're going to tell you traumatic things in order to force a relationship with you and create like a fake intimacy. You meet someone at a party, you've been talking to them for 5 minutes. They tell you how their dad died of cancer and how they're going to put their dog down and their mother never loved them. And you're like, wow, I'm going to go get more chips. It's boundaryless in a way that is almost scary.
It's a form of unloading. It's basically saying, hey, I'm not willing to get myself into a psychotherapy practice. I'm not willing to learn how to mitigate my own stress. So I'm just going to find a stranger and dump all of my BS on them,
right,
so that I can walk away and for the next hour or two feel refreshed.
A little bit relieved. When I was a teenager and in my 20s and arguably into my 30s, I was a chronic oversharer. I loved to tell strangers and new friends terrible things about my family because I did feel like I was unburdening myself. I think I had a messed up idea of we're only as sick as our secrets. So I'm like, well, I don't want to keep any secrets.
I don't know if that's a messed up idea, but yeah, I think the way that we were taught, it was a little bit much.
I've talked about it before. Early in comedy, so much of my act was just sharing awful things that I had been through because it does get a shock laugh. And you're like, oh, this is funny. People are laughing at it. They're not laughing at it because it's funny. They're laughing at it because they don't know what else to do.
You're traumatizing them.
I'm traumatizing them with my own trauma. Sometimes when you meet someone who immediately starts oversharing with you, I think that they're trying to dump their trauma on you, but also I think they're trying to create a fake intimacy. Like, oh, we must be close. You know all these things about me. Like, I've been so open with you.
Yeah, I find this a lot at airports because I think airports are a place where people know that they can corner you and dump all over you. This is why I'm constantly wearing headphones. I don't make eye contact with anyone and I just try to keep my distance.
I also think airports are a safe place for people to do all kinds of things, to trauma dump, to catastrophize, to revert to a childlike nature, to cry in public because they're not going to see any of these people again.
Have sex with strangers.
I mean, we've all done it. I have been a people pleaser. I have one friend who's the extreme of this. He will take anyone to the airport at any time. And in LA, that's a big commitment. Picking up people, dropping off people, it can be half your day. So sometimes you meet people who are overly people pleasing and you sense that there's something off about it. What do they want from me? Why are they being this nice? I feel like I've been a people pleaser before in my life because I want people to find me worthwhile.
I recently saw a TikTok. You'll be surprised. The woman was saying people pleasing is actually really selfish because the idea is that I'm going to do things so that people don't hurt me. And so it's about self-preservation.
And the danger of people pleasing is that you'll talk to people and they'll say, well, I do all these things for all these people. My kindness has been taken advantage of. And that's not fair. If you're offering to do things for people and they accept, that doesn't mean anything that they have to do in return. Many times I've had conversations with people, and you know that this is one of my main tenets, and I know I've said it on the podcast before. Don't do things for other people because you want them to do them in return.
Well, it's very unhealthy, and you're going to end up becoming an incredibly resentful person.
You're right. Ultimately, people pleasing is selfish behavior, even though it doesn't seem like it. Putting other people's concerns ahead of your own to a pathological degree, it's a kind of boundarylessness that has a possible positive side effect.
Well, it's not really a benefit though, because generally in my experience, it never pans out. I do all the things and then the takers keep taking.
Because from their perspective, they're like, oh, well, she's doing these things because she wants to. She's volunteering to do this stuff. Okay.
With zero expectations of me. I'm just her friend. So what if she just lent me $6,317 to pay
I don't
my
have to pay
mortgage?
it back. She said she wanted to do it.
I needed the money for property taxes, so she just paid it.
There's definitely something wrong with her brain, but I'm not going to worry about that now.
Absolutely not.
So another dynamic that we've talked a lot about, but I still find fascinating, the mutual bad boundaries of the covert narc or the overt narc and the codependent. A narcissist has no boundaries because they're always looking for other people to either validate them or save them. They need that out of another person. And when they meet a codependent, the codependent will say, well, I like validating you. I like fixing your life. Like, we are the damsel in distress and the knight in shining armor. We are this archetypal romantic or friend relationship. The narc is making things your problem that are not your problem.
And you are making things your problem that are not your problem.
Right.
Here's a fun thing that I do sometimes with most of my clients are enmeshed codependent, and they usually have a history of relationships with narcissists. I recently had a client say, well, my dad was a narcissist, so what was my mom? And I said, well, you have 3 options. She's either borderline narcissist or she's an enmeshed codependent. Other people don't date narcissists. If you're ever wondering if this is your problem, I tell my clients to ask themselves, if you were on a desert island with no internet and no phone, would you know about this problem? And if the answer is no, then it is not your problem.
What would happen? A recent episode we've done on Alfred Adler, Adler would say, that's not your task. If someone is putting overt or covert pressure on you to fix their life, fix their personality, to fix them, they are trying to give you a task that is not your task.
The way that I describe it is it's above your pay grade.
Yes. You see this dynamic so often of the narc and the codep. They seem to be meant for each other. And it's because a healthy person will detect and reject both of these angles. If a narcissist meets a truly healthy person, and let's say they're a covert narcissist and they say, well, I have no friends and I'm about to get kicked out of my house and my foot hurts and my boss hates me. A regular person hearing this from a stranger or a casual acquaintance will say, that's really terrible. I really hope that you are able to get on top of that stuff. And a codependent will say, I'm going to fix it.
And the healthy person will also be repulsed by that person because they'll realize, oh, we don't have any relationship that exists. So you don't have the social cachet to be talking to me about these things. If I had been friends with you for 15 years and all this stuff was happening, I would really feel differently than if I had just met you at the airport.
And on the other side, if a regular healthy person, maybe a person who's worked on themselves a little bit, meets a codep, they might say something like, yeah, stuff with my mom is going hard lately. And the codep jump in and try to insert themselves and try to help and take over the problem. A healthy person is going to be turned off by that.
Yeah, I remember somebody that I know picking up a woman at an HEB parking lot and giving her a ride somewhere, literally a stranger. And the woman had left her purse in the car. She'd run off, left her purse in the car.
Right.
And so this person I know opened up the purse in an attempt to try to find a contact information. Right. And instead she found a bunch of fraudulent credit cards and IDs.
A lot of bad boundaries. We're talking about romantic relationships, but in some of the people pleaser categories and other stuff, there's bad boundaries you can have with friends. And the great thing about boundaries is sometimes they do not have to be the bad boundaries. They're sometimes implied. I had a friend who was a borderline, still is, wherever she is. And she was flat obsessed with this dude for 2 years, possibly more, did nothing but obsess with him, tried to initiate relationships with him. And he was happy to have sex with her. But he told her again and again that they weren't going to be in a relationship. It was crazy making because she was constantly asking me, do you think he's doing this? Do you think he's doing that? Do you think he's seeing other girls? Like the codep I am, I would go try to find out. I learned that I was not allowed to talk to him or go to his shows or go to shows he was running or have any contact with him at all. If I did, and I said, oh, I saw so-and-so, she would give me the silent treatment for days. It was a spectacularly weird combo where she wanted me to have information that I had no way to get.
No, she wanted you to validate her. She wanted you to say, oh, he's just hot and cold. He's probably in a weird place right now, but I'm sure he wants you and I'm sure you guys are going to date.
Because he's having sex with you every once in a while. And that means he wants to have a relationship with you.
He sometimes responds to your texts.
It was really sad. And it was one of the first times that I became aware of attachment styles because she was so anxious and he was so avoidant. She was trying to engage with me and she was trying to get me to talk about what a bad guy he was, what a dingbat he was, and how he was missing out on this great thing. Eventually, I had to start telling her, he's only ever been honest with you. He's never told you anything different. This is your issue or bad boundary.
I wonder why you guys aren't friends anymore.
Like a lot of borderlines, once she left the town in which I lived, she really had no need for me any longer because I was no longer available to meet her at 2:00 in the morning to talk about this awful thing that this guy did.
Well, if you'd been willing to get on a plane and been a real friend, then maybe things could have been different.
I guess you're right. In the end, this man blocked her on social media and she was destroyed by it. And I was so grateful because that was the only thing that was going to stop the madness.
Well, he had to set a firm boundary.
In the workplace, you can sometimes feel rewarded for being a people pleaser. You can feel rewarded for putting work above everything else. And I've worked in environments where people did this. When I was younger, I would be like, wow, they're really like giving their all to this company. And certainly it was something that my father modeled as a desirable thing. But now I think it's not only not good for you, it's not even good for the company because you over engaging.
You are heading to burnout.
And then you're going to drop everything. And then where will anyone be?
So if you're working for a carnival, it would be good to be boundaryless because they're asking you to work very, very hard for a limited amount of time. But if you want to continue a stable, long-term employment situation, you cannot be that way.
I understand that people can get their ego needs met at work. Definitely, I've done it. But your coworkers, they may like you, but they're not your life partners and they're not your children.
They may enjoy taking advantage of you.
Yeah.
Because then they get to work less.
So here I'm talking to our dad. So if you are playing the dad game, enjoy your drink.
If you want to hear more about our dad, we have an upcoming episode, or maybe one we've already played, where we talk all about our dad. It's called Dad Show. Tune in.
For the Dad Show, the last topic that I would like to talk about is weaponized boundaries. So these are truly bad boundaries, negative boundaries that are harmful. And this is a fun side effect of people who are not therapized, hearing a therapy word and deciding that they can apply it to their situation. A weaponized boundary would be, you're my partner. You're not allowed to talk to people of the opposite sex.
I find this a lot with people who have done just enough therapy to be dangerous. This is why they say don't ever get a sociopath or a narcissist into a therapy room because they'll learn enough of the language to be extremely manipulative. What was his name?
Jonah Hill.
Read some of his texts to his girlfriend because that's what he did. He did just enough therapy to be dangerous.
And then made a whole movie about his therapist and how amazing and therapized he is. So he asked her that she remove photos from her Instagram account because they were too revealing. And the irony of that is that she was a surfer, like she was an incredible, well-built athlete. He says, I respect your love of surfing, but I respect myself as well. You can't hang out with people I don't approve of. You have to take things off the internet that I consider too revealing. When she's pushing back, he says, I've made my boundaries clear. You refuse to respect them and you've made that clear, and I hope it makes you happy. If you need surfing with men, boundaryless, inappropriate friendships with men, if you need to model, if you need to post pictures of yourself in a bathing suit or post sexual pictures, if you need friendships with women who are in unstable places and from your wild past, I am not the right partner for you. These are my boundaries for a romantic partnership. And those are not boundaries. Those are preferences.
Those are also rules that he's placing on you. And that's not a boundary.
I definitely have experienced this kind of thing where a partner would say, I need you to not talk to this person. I need you to do things in a certain way. And I just have a boundary around that. These are not boundaries. Those are just your preferences. And you're framing them in a way that makes it look defensible.
It's using a word incorrectly.
Right.
Right. This is a Jonah Hill to Sarah Brady text. You're right. We can't do social things or develop trust until you consider me and make decisions that give regard to our relationship. I have been vulnerable as possible, and I'm telling you, I am needing you to step up to the plate, which you can. I'm sure of it. But these losers don't get your time if you want me. Straight up, it's consideration. I respect your love of surfing, but I respect myself as well. And your love of surfing and being in those situations and lack of awareness are not mutually exclusive. This is not me. I have my own issues that I own, but this is not one of them.
I want you to surf if you want to, but please do it while dressed as a Quaker woman.
Or surf in private. Why do you have to pursue things that are directly linked to your career?
Why do you have to post pictures of yourself that other men find attractive when those pictures are what I initially found attractive?
Which is why I pursued you.
Which is why I pursued you in the first GD place. Here's a list of bad boundaries: oversharing, codependence, accepting mistreatment. That's a tough pill to swallow sometimes. But if someone mistreats you and you repeatedly accept it, that is your boundary.
Refer to things he did and we stay.
Trying to control others or allowing others to control you, manipulating others, feeling responsible for other people's feelings. And this can go under the CODEP, feeling responsible for fixing others, touching people without permission. And that's a very serious bad boundary.
Yeah. Did you see the pictures from the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders website?
You sent me a TikTok of Taylor Tomlinson talking about the policy of the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders, that when they do a photo op, they give a man who wants to be in the photo a football to hold. And that is something they've developed to keep strange men from touching these women.
Because men don't understand boundaries when it comes to your body. I think we've all experienced that boundary break in public spaces. I remember jumping into a mosh pit and all these men were aggressively grabbing my body parts.
Mm-hmm. Taylor Tomlinson, when she was talking about this phenomenon, she was like, this is so brilliant because this is a way to stop the behavior without correcting the men and making them feel bad, which then makes them angry and go on the defensive. You're just like, here, you hold this football. You can't possibly hold this lady's butt if you're holding this football.
Right. And also it's tying into my masculinity. I'm holding a football.
They love to hold a football.
Because I'm a big, strong man. Did you hear about the lawsuit recently with Taylor Swift and a DJ?
Another Taylor. Yes, because she, already one of the most famous pop stars in the world, did a photo op at some radio station, and the DJ felt very entitled to put his hand on her butt. And she sued that MF. And I love it so much.
I do too.
I love everything about Taylor Swift. I love her politics. I love her feminism. I love her fan base. I love young women being super fans of a woman. Only thing I do not like about her is her music, but everything else is so good.
I really enjoy her folk music where it's just guitar and vocal because she is a very wonderful singer. And during lockdown, she did this whole documentary where she just recorded songs at home on a guitar. And I actually did love that. You may want to check it out, anyone who is an anti-Swiftie music-wise. I also wish that she wore pants on stage. That bothers me.
That's her choice.
It is her choice. It's her body, her choice, as my son often says.
The thing about the football idea in the Taylor Swift story is that I've experienced something similar. A couple times I've gone to Comic-Con and I always dress up, usually just as some version of my own character, Lady Bloodmeadow. So people know that I'm doing something. They don't know what it is. And you're like, oh, he thinks it looks cool or whatever, but it's so that they can touch you. I had this experience again and again, and no one was grabbing my butt, but people were putting their hand around my waist. They were putting their hand on my shoulder. Like, because we were taking a picture together, they felt that they had permission to touch me. And that's why they were asking. They don't know what my character is. They're just like, oh, here's a girl who looks cute and I have permission to touch her because I'm asking for a photograph. It happens in comedy. Like after a show, people will ask for a photograph. If it's a woman, absolutely. If it's a couple, sure. If it's a single man, I will either say no or I will try to pull someone else in with me or another male comic because they just want to touch your body.
Ew. I also find wearing a costume, people seem to think they own you. I remember I went out with a friend on Halloween dressed as a peacock, and this man just started basically pretending to hunt me from behind. And it was really scary and aggressive.
That sounds cool.
So I pushed him with my backside against the wall and beat him into submission.
Nice. I do think something about being costumed, people will sometimes take that as an invitation. And there's a more recent statement, cosplay is not consent, that it's just because I'm dressing up as something doesn't mean you know me, doesn't mean you can touch me, doesn't mean any of these things, but it has been an issue in the community.
I was listening to Dork Forest. I don't know if you've heard of it. There's a woman named Jackie Cation. She's a comedian.
I feel like I have heard that.
Yeah. Well, it was the Dolly Parton episode.
with my absolutely bonkers friend, Popovich. Yeah.
Yes. So she went to see Dolly in person. She went backstage at a show with her boyfriend, and they asked Dolly to take pictures with them. And Dolly Parton stood to the side of her boyfriend and grabbed both of his butt cheeks as hard as she could and didn't let go. And I thought to myself, that's a boundary that I would be okay.
God bless Dolly
If
Parton.
you're Dolly Parton, you can do it. If you're anybody else on the planet, you
Not
cannot
okay.
do it.
Not okay. So here's a list of good boundaries. These are reasonable boundaries. The thing about setting good boundaries is it doesn't just protect you, it encourages people around you to set good boundaries. It's like a thing you can pay forward. A good boundary is saying no and accepting the word no. I was in a relationship where I was frequently asked to do things I did not want to do, and they were small things, okay? It was not any kind of life-changing thing. Sometimes I would say no, and it was not accepted. And it was terrifying to be having a conversation with someone who would not accept my no.
It has to be okay for me to say no in this
Yes.
relationship, or I can't be in this relationship.
Other good boundaries are engaging in appropriate sharing, so contextually relevant, relationship dependent. I can share things with you that I cannot share with the clerk at Trader Joe's. It would not be healthy, but I've known you your whole life.
I share everything with the clerk at Trader Joe's. Bill and I go way back.
Just also, people, if you've ever felt like the clerk at Trader Joe's is flirting with you or is extra interested in you, they're told to do that and it's not real. I'm sorry.
They're being paid extra to do that.
They're being
Also-
paid minimum wage to do that.
Also, if you go into an establishment where ladies dance around with very little to no clothing, they are also being paid to be nice to you.
Yes. And if you do not give them money, they sometimes get angry because they've already been nice to you. It's a good boundary to respect other people's values, beliefs, and opinions while knowing that you do not have to compromise your own values, beliefs, and opinions. Good boundaries include knowing that your feelings and needs are just as important as the needs and feelings of others. I think that's something I've not always done, and I think it's super important. A good boundary is knowing who you are and what you want and communicating that to others. That is the way to have good, healthy friendships, healthy relationships. When you don't just expect them to intuit what you want, you don't say, well, clearly I'm doing this, so they know I want that. Let people know. When we are having a conversation, I want you to make eye contact with me. When you do grocery shopping, I would like it if you asked me if I needed anything. Set it out so that people can meet it or not need it. The failure won't be because they didn't know what was going on.
Right. So the way that I explain setting healthy boundaries to my clients is the goal is to create a situation where everybody knows where the lines are so that I can keep myself safe and I can keep you safe.
In an attempt to be helpful, here are some phrases you can use while you are attempting to set your own good boundaries. If you're feeling, as the internet says, you don't have enough spoons, if you're feeling a little bit wrung out socially, you can tell your partner, you can tell your friend, you can tell your family member, I need some alone time right now. I need to recharge my batteries.
I explained this spoons thing to a client this week, and I didn't realize it's used really commonly in the autistic community, but it actually came from a woman who had chronic illness. And if you picture the spoons full of stuff, it's actually almost easier. Like I have 2 spoons, but these ones are already full. I have half a spoon.
Here's something that I would never say, but if I were a better person, I would. I value our conversation, but I can't engage in gossip or negative talk. As Dorothy Parker once said, if you don't have anything nice to say, come here and sit by me. If you're in a situation where someone is asking you personal questions, when are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? Is this your serious boyfriend? You can say, I'm not comfortable discussing that with you at the moment, but I appreciate your concern. If someone is trying to give you additional work, give you additional tasks, I've been in a terrible situation where I lost a friend a couple weeks ago, and the woman who is essentially his widow, people have been trying to give her other tasks. Can you take this person by his place? This person would really find it helpful if he could go through your dead spouse's stuff. And I'm like, you don't have to take on any of that. Feel free to say no to any of it. But a good way to say it is, I'm not available to take on additional commitments right now. I'm focusing on my mental well-being. A good one for if you are in an argument or someone has dropped a bomb on you and you are not ready to continue the conversation. I need a little space to process my emotions before I can discuss this further.
Something I often say to clients, there's a book called The Art of Extreme Self-Care by Cheryl Richardson. And she talks about one of the moments where people are more likely to ask you for inappropriate things than others. She said the worst moment in her day is morning drop off. PTA members will basically push you into a corner and start saying, "Can you make 2 dozen cupcakes by tomorrow?" Stuff like that. And they'll corner you because they know that you can't get away. You have to drop your kid off. You have to take her into the classroom. So you're going to be in that classroom. You're frazzled. You're probably running late and you don't have a lot of time to make good decisions. So what she says is, I'm going to need to check with someone on that. And that someone is Cheryl Richardson.
Let me run that past my baker at the house, which
admin.
is me. I have a friend from TikTok who I don't know if he listens to the podcast, but he's a new comic. And he was telling me, I'm setting up this new show in my hometown, but I'm trying to figure out how to keep every Tom, Dick, and Harry that I know from demanding to have time on it. I said, a great thing to do is to set up a Gmail for the show. And when people ask, can I be on the show, say, we have a committee that we need to run it by. Please send me your tape and we're going to review it. And the committee is him.
Yeah, that's a great boundary. I love that.
In closing, Laura, what are your thoughts about good and sloppy boundaries, we'll say?
Boundaries are probably the topic that comes up most at my job every single day. And I think that, especially with women, we're really taught to have extremely sloppy, poor boundaries. And we're somewhat rewarded for it, but it's more of an expectation that's been set for us from the jump. We're told at a very early age that we're responsible for things that are not ours, especially if we come from an enmeshed codependent family, like some of us have. And I think that we're taught that saying no is a dirty word.
What if they need you?
I get this befuddled look on their faces on the daily when I say, well, you should probably say no. What I talk about with them most of the time is checking it out with your body. Let's say that you asked me to bake 2 dozen cupcakes
by Tuesday.
I'm going to check in with my body and I'm going to feel what my body feels like. And when you say that, I feel tightness in my stomach and my chest, restricted breathing, and I feel really uncomfortable. So that means it's a no. But if I check in with my body, a request you made, and I feel loose and maybe even positive, then it's a yes.
I've been meaning to bake 2 dozen cupcakes.
Well, okay, let's say that I'm a baker and my cupcakes are about to go stale and I already had 2 dozen in the freezer anyway. NBD.
And also, a great thing about that method is not just checking in with your body, but taking the time to really consider it and saying, okay, let me think about that.
We are not encouraged to do that in this society.
As a society, you're supposed to snap judgment.
I think that being boundaryless, being sloppy comes from home training. It comes from your family of origin. It comes from the society that we have all come from. And I think if you're an alcoholic or if you're a drug addict or if you have a gambling addiction, everybody wants you to stop. But if you are codependent and enmeshed, if you have that as your illness, if your relational style is really, really negative, nobody wants you to get better at that because other people specifically, it serves them, right? Specifically manipulators and mentally ill people, they want to take advantage of you because it serves them. So Virginia, in closing, what are your final thoughts on this topic?
My final thoughts are, even though it sounds challenging and negative to say, I'm setting a boundary, it helps other people know what you need and it helps you get your needs met. Setting boundaries and saying no to things you need to say no to keeps you from being in a position of saying, how did I get here?
It preserves the strength of your relationships.
And it keeps you from being in unhealthy relationships because people who repeatedly ask you for boundary crossing things are not people you need to be in a friendship relationship.
If anyone wants to see your content on the internet, how would they go about doing that?
You can find me at my website, www.bedinia.com. You can find me at TikTok at Bedinia, on my Instagram at Bedinia. You can find me any of these places. You can find our website at www.mysistersatherapist.com. If you would like to write us with compliments, questions, suggestions for future podcasts, you can write us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com. If you would like to hire us to open your Taylor Swift concert,
at your bat mitzvah,
to cut the ribbon on a new ball pit at McDonald's, if you'd like us to witness the blessing of a newborn calf,
hire us at mysistersatherapist.com.
Laura, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, they can find me at lauraryan.org. They can also find me on TikTok at I am Laura Ryan. And they can also, of course, find me anywhere where you find My Sister's a Therapist.
Laura, this is the part of the podcast where sometimes you will read a review that someone has sent us. Do you have one to share this week?
I certainly do. It's from Nap attacks. No skips. 10 out of 10. Virginia Jones is one of the sharpest and most insightful comics on the planet, and her sister Laura Ryan is a therapist. Nap attacks, thanks, but no thanks.
I did see that one. And I wrote Nap Attacks. Thanks for listening. And I said, my sister's not going to love that, but it's very funny.
I read it for comic effect.
Yeah.
Also because I'm desperate for your Apple Podcast review.
We can't tell you how much we would like to have additional Apple Podcast reviews. So think about that. In the meantime, we'd like to leave you with the words of Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn. We can make it, baby.
Me and you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.